Can we calm the fuck down now? Can we? Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, powered by BetUS. It's funny. 19 games in, and I'm not sure that even the most optimistic Knicks fan, even the most glass half full Knicks fan, my glass is very full right now. Thank you, Juan, please. I'm not sure anybody was feeling great about this team, even if you were believing all the sorts of things that I have been saying over the first 19 games about give it time, have patience. Chemistry develops in ways that you often don't expect. That the easing in process to having new players join your team is not how you might expect it to look. Sometimes there can be ramifications of guys changing scenery that aren't the way that don't look the way you think that they're supposed to look. All of those sorts of things. You could buy into all of that. You could have bought into all of that before this game. And still, when you're thinking about this team being like, all that's well and good, I still not. I have my doubts, right? I have my doubts, and I think that is why, for as dominant as the Denver victory was, for as cool as it was to see Karl-Anthony Towns put the team on his back and beat that Miami Heat squad in that game earlier in the season. It feels like a million years ago now. Uh, you know, for as nice as some of their victories have been, for as cool as we've had some performances, I'm not sure there's been a more important game in the Knicks' first 20 than this one. And I know who they were playing. For anybody who may be watching this tomorrow and you were watching, or listening to this tomorrow or watching this tomorrow and was watching football or out, getting your Christmas tree or whatever, the Pelicans team, it wasn't even the Pelicans team that was on the floor tonight, because this team had talent. I said it during the halftime Zoom. Shout out to all my Substack subscribers. I think this Pels team had more talent than the Hornets team that took the Knicks to the brink and then proceeded to take the Hawks to the brink last night. Like DeJounte Murray, former All-Star, CJ McCollum should have made an All-Star team at one point. Trey Murphy, a guy who, everybody seems to think is a future All-Star in the making. And then you look up and down their rotation, they have some other, kind of, sort of, maybe if you squint, NBA players, but they thought they didn't have talent. But this is a dead man walking organization right now. And, you saw the news, and this news was broken a few days ago. I apologize. It's not on the tip of my tongue. I don't know who broke the news, but it was not Shams. That Brandon Ingram is switching agencies to Clutch. Whatever. This Pels team barely showed up tonight. That said, what Mikal Bridges came out and did tonight in response to, it's not even that the noise about him reached a deafening volume. It went beyond that. It was the dam broke, and all of the people who had been kind of staying steady, I'm not going to overreact. Something about that Hornets game, and the fact that he had to be benched in the last 8.5 minutes because he was so bad. Maybe it was that turnover at the end of the first half, whatever it was. Something, I think it broke some of us. Not me. I go back and listen to the last post game. Never broke. I was worried. I don't know how he could have been worried, but regardless, for him to come out there and make and just play with the kind of confidence that the Mikal Bridges, the Knicks thought they were trading for, you expected that guy to play with. That's what we saw tonight. And it was a beautiful thing because if that's the version of Mikal Bridges the Knicks are going to get moving forward, then this whole experiment takes on a very different feel. And yes, I did think it was not just him getting comfortable from three. And obviously he tied his career high with 7 made threes in the game. And you want to talk about these things were going up like without a second thought, zero hesitation. I thought the form looked perfectly fine tonight. It wasn't just the offense. I thought defensively in the first half, before everybody kind of let go of the rope, I thought you saw the best of Mikal Bridges on the defensive end as well. And again, if that's the version of Mikal Bridges that you're going to get moving forward, then this is a serious basketball team. Then this is a contender. Then all the moves they made this summer might just pay off. Then we can start taking them seriously. They need that guy. Without him, nothing else really matters. Without Mikal Bridges being Mikal Bridges, nothing else really matters. And so for him to come out and do that tonight, regardless of who he played, he could have been playing, I'm trying to think of the worst NBA team in recent memory. He could have been playing, I think it's actually the same franchise, right? The Bobcats team that won 7 games. Where did they go? 7 and 59, trying to get Anthony Davis. He could have been playing that team. It wouldn't have mattered. He just needed one of these nights. And now you hope that he carries it forward. Because if he carries it forward, then again, we're in business. So, fantastic night for Mikal Bridges. Needed it. We all needed it. And I have to think his teammates are the happiest people in the world for him that he had the night that he had tonight. But of course, you don't, I don't know what even the final score was in this game. You don't win by 30, whatever. You don't go up by 40 plus points without a complete and total team effort. And my favorite stat from this game, easily, is that they won by 33. The Knicks were up by 29 points at halftime, despite Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby combining to shoot 6 of 25 from the field. They could have easily been up 45 at halftime. And the reason why I think that's my favorite stat of the game, other than the Mikal Bridges 3-point shooting, is that, and again, yes, I know who they were playing. So this one, I think much more than the Mikal performance, I think this one you do have to take with a grain of salt because of who they were playing. But that was one of the signature defensive performances of the season for New York. And I know, I know people are going to hate on their defense generally. Even after tonight, their defense is still going to be a bottom 10 defense. They have a long way to go before they get to league average for the year. A long way to go. And I don't know if they're going to get there. But, slowly but surely, they are starting to give you some more performances on the defensive end that indicate to you, okay, this is a team that at least has the capability of playing high-level defense. Just looking at their last bunch of games. So tonight, obviously, they only allowed 85 points to the Hornets, and I thought their defensive effort and intensity and execution in the first half tonight was as good as it's been all year. Previous game, again, it was a not a very good Charlotte team, but I think for all that went wrong in that game, a lot of it was on offense, and I thought they bore down on defense, especially when it mattered the most as you got down into the fourth quarter. The Dallas game was something of a disaster defensively. We could call a spade a spade. At the same time, those guys were just like, they were hitting shots, and it was just not the next night. The game before that, Denver ended up putting up 118, but the defensive effort that the Knicks came out with in that game, I thought was extremely high level. So, you're the more it's not going to happen every game. You're not going to get a great defensive performance every game. But if you could get very good to great defensive performances more often than not, that's all you need. That's all you need. And I think you saw one tonight, and hopefully this is something that they could build on to go into a game that in a lot of ways is going to be is it going to be the most I just call this one the most important win of the season, the most important performance of the season. I think you could argue that that next game might be their most important performance or game of the season for a few reasons. One, if you care about the NBA Cup, I have no idea if the players care about the NBA Cup, but obviously the winner of this game goes on to the quarterfinals. The loser does not. So, or actually, no, sorry, that's actually not true. Orlando will still probably move on to the quarter. So they actually don't even really need the game for cup purposes as much as the Knicks do. The Knicks need to win to get to the quarters. But you're after the 20 game mark. We've been saying it for a while, 20 games, 20 games, 20 games. All right, well, now we're past 20 games, and you got an Orlando team coming into your building. Yes, they have been the best team in the league, record-wise, certainly, over the last probably close to a month now, ever since Paolo Banchero has gone down. They only have lost once since Paolo's gone down. But, you should beat this team. You should beat this team. There's some online. And more than any of that, more than the cup, more than 20 games, this is the team that's right in front of you in the standings. So, I think it would be a good night on Tuesday for the Knicks to show up and kind of announce to the world in a louder fashion than maybe they have at any point so far this season and say, okay, we're for real. Like, we know where we are now. We took a little while to get here, but we're for real. And I think they can do it again. Tonight against these Pelicans, not exactly the most first half, especially not exactly the most scintillating offensive performance. I mean, you look at the numbers that some of the guys finished with. We finished with 2 for 10 from the field. Towns couldn't get anything to go in the first half, but shout out to Karl-Anthony Towns, finished with 19 rebounds. Of course, that's deceiving. He had 17 rebounds in the first half. And I want to group those two guys together. And Jalen Brunson as well finished with 16 points, 9 assists. He shot 4 of 11 for the game. In a lot of ways, how perfect was it? What perfect symbolism that on a night that Mikal Bridges goes off on offense and has his by far his best offensive game of the year, you have Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson, the 3 players who have carried the Knicks offensively, with a tip of the cap to Josh Hart and Deuce McBride. But those 3 have been the 3 guys who have carried the Knicks offensively over the first 18 games of the season. How cool was it that none of those guys were shooting it particularly well, although Brunson kind of had it going from deep, but they all found ways to significantly impact the game. OG Anunoby, I thought, was as dominant defensively as in any game this season. You heard Breen talk about the possibility of OG Anunoby getting a 5x5 game. He ended up with 3 steals and 4 blocks in addition to 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. So that's how he contributed. Towns, obviously, with the rebounds. I thought he also had a couple nice passes as well. And then speaking of passing, Jalen Brunson, 9 assists. Just continues to facilitate like one of the best, facilitating point guards in the league, to say nothing of what he does from a scoring standpoint. So really, really special stuff from those 3 guys to contribute in the ways that they did, to remind everybody, like, look, even when, those guys do not have everything going on offense, you still are going to have to reckon with them, and you're still obviously going to have to reckon with this team. Other things, we've praised the bench a lot this season. I shouldn't have waited 15 minutes to shout out the 2 guys that I'm about to shout out, but Deuce McBride and Jericho Sims, another not even good, it's outstanding performance. What more can you possibly ask for in your 6th and 7th man than what the Knicks are currently getting from Deuce and Sims? And it is, I mean, Deuce, everybody's been in love with Deuce since the day he got drafted, even when he couldn't shoot it at all. His turnaround continues to be one of the most insane stories in basketball, that this is a guy that will put up any shot, anywhere, anytime, in front of anyone, and it's probably going to go in. He was great tonight. Kept the pressure on after he came in. And Jericho Sims, how many weeks removed are we from people wanting wanting him. They wanted to forget out of the rotation. They wanted him benched. They wanted him cut. They didn't want to see him again. When you got some Huckporty minutes there at the end, the guy that everybody was clamoring for, reminding you like he's a rookie, and he's not quite there yet. So, yeah, I don't know what more you could possibly want from Sims. He's been awesome. I think he had in this game, he was on pace for almost as many rebounds as Towns was. I'll get the exact number in a second. So great game from both of those guys. Just a dominant effort against a team that they should have dominated. 13 rebounds for Jericho Sims. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin on the ones and twos tonight. Shout out to him. And then, last thing, actually, no, two more things, and then we're going to get to Super Chats. For my autograph signature moment of the game, shout out to Autograph. You can check the Autograph app. Tomorrow, I will have a fresh Macri's 3x3 up. I love when I get to do a 3x3 off of a win because then I get to be positive. I'll look back at 3 things from the past week, and I'll look ahead to 3 things previewing the week ahead. Again, if you don't have the Autograph app, go ahead and download that sucker right now so you can start getting rewarded for your fandom. Link is in all of my bios if you want, or you could just download it anywhere you get your apps. Use code KFS. And again, Autograph, get rewarded for all the stuff you are already doing, like listening to this very podcast or watching this live stream. Okay, my Autograph signature moment of the game, they were up 25. It was about halfway through the second quarter. It was about 6 minutes left in the second quarter. And I just wrote down here in my notes, rabid, and I underlined rabid twice, defensive possession. Because to me, that exemplified the effort and the attention to detail that they came into this game with, where even after they got a big lead, and we've seen this a few times, we saw them get a big lead at Phoenix. We saw them get a big lead against the Wizards. Probably have seen them get a big lead 1 or 2 other times earlier this year. And their defense in pretty much every one of those games started to let up. And it did not happen tonight. I mean, when they got up by like 30 plus in the second half, there was like a couple of minutes there where the starters were like not at an A+ level. But other than that, man, everything you could possibly want. And again, it's more than just Bridges. Bridges is not the only concerning thing about this team. It was also the defense. So to have the defensive performance like you had tonight and put your foot down was awesome. Thank you, Autograph. That is your Autograph signature moment of the game. Last thing, I don't actually even think I could do this yet. I'll take a look. But, we've been saying it for a while, 20 games. Where are they going to be after 20 games? What is their record going to be after 20 games? What is their statistical profile going to look like after 20 games? And it's not up yet, so we'll have to wait for it. But I'm going to keep hitting the refresh button because I think the last thing that I want to say before we get to the Super Chats, this is the team for this franchise that had the highest expectations that any team has had in 3 decades. All due respect to the 12-13 team, this team had higher expectations. All due respect to any of the even late 90s teams, this team had higher expectations. You have to go back to 93-94. It's the last time a Knicks team had the sort of expectations that this team had. And because of that, every loss, every bad thing that they did, every good thing that another team did against them, you're gonna, it's not gonna feel great. It's not gonna feel great because you have the expectations now versus last year, where the expectations, especially after those guys went down and got injured, the expectations plummeted because they had a get out of jail free card. And yet, all that team did was scratch and claw, and every time they could be in a game, every possible advantage that they could get on an opponent, they got. They like that was it was a dream team, not in the sense that we know that, but it was a dream for every fan to have a team where you're like, you never have to go to sleep angry, win or lose, like you never have to worry about anything. And so to come off of that team playing like that with those expectations into this team with these expectations, it didn't matter if you told yourself intellectually, logically, whatever, that they were going to have a bumpy road. It wasn't going to feel great if they got off to the kind of start that they got off to. And then here's what I've been building up to. If you put all of that out of your mind and you just focus on this group with the adjustments they needed to make and the learning curve and all of those sorts of things, and you're like, okay, 12-8, fourth place in the East. And then again, when their net I don't want to presume what their net rating is going to be, although I have a funny feeling I think I know roughly what it's going to be. Oh, it just updated there. How do you know? 6.5 plus 6.5 points per 100 possessions. That's the sixth best net rating in the league, behind the Thunder, the Celtics, the Cavs, the Rockets, so the four best teams in the two conferences, and the Grizzlies, who are at plus 8 points per 100. And then you got the Knicks at plus 6.5. Ahead of the Mavs, ahead of the Magic, ahead of the Warriors, ahead of the Clippers, ahead of the Nuggets, ahead of the Heat, way ahead of the Timberwolves. Way, way ahead of the Timberwolves. Bucks, Kings, Spurs, Suns, Pistons, Lakers. Remember all that hullabaloo about the Lakers at the beginning of the year? They have the 19th best efficiency differential in basketball. One spot ahead of the Nets. Shout out to the Nets. They've been playing great. But the Knicks are sixth. Number 3 offense. Creep up to 22 in defense. But the formula, we see it, and we've seen it work, and it worked tonight. And hopefully, as you get some better competition on the schedule, it'll work even more.